Welcome, members, to the regular meeting of the panel on manpower. This is the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. Item 1, information papers issued since the last meeting. We have received, the Secretariat has received a letter from Mr. Andrew WAN. It's in relation to LCSD's arrangements in relation to the COVID-19 and their contractors. We have forwarded the letter. We will shortly receive a reply from the administration, and that will be forwarded to you. Mr. WAN, are we going to have a discussion? It is rather urgent. You might have heard. Everything has ground to a halt. So these outsourced workers have lost their income. So there are two systems here. Those who are on an hourly salary do not receive anything in their income. Let's see how we can follow this up. The next regular meeting will take place in May, on the 19th of May, which is a Tuesday. The Labour and Welfare Bureau suggested two items for discussion. First, latest development in the employment services of the Labour Department and formulation of sector-specific working hours guidelines. Any views? I think members are rather concerned about unemployment, so the employment services of the Labour Department is something that is worth discussing. Shall we have these two items? Item 3, matters arising from the meeting on the 17th of March. Under item 4, Mr. Michael Luk proposed a motion on enforcement of labor legislation by the Labor Administration branch of the Labor Department. There wasn't enough time, but we're going to deal with it now. Well, you have received the paper on the 20th of March. It's paper number CB bracket 2743/19 to 20 bracket 01. You will see the wording of the motion on the screen. We're going to go straight to the voting. Mr. Luk, please move the motion. Anyone claims a division? Thank you. I move a motion in relation to enforcement of labor legislation by the Labor Administration branch of the Labor Department. We have high unemployment rate. There has been a number of cases of employees being asked to go on no pay leave or receive a pay cut. And there has been a cut in the services, say for example, providing by the Labor Department, say for example, only providing counter services on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and to restrict the number of people coming that will go to the office. And sometimes they will use the telephone to deal with calls for assistance. We understand that there is an urgency for the service to resume fully, and they should resume the interview arrangements and do away with the quota system. And in order to enhance protection on labor rights, they need to enhance their publicity and education so that more people understand their rights. You see the wording of the motion on the screen. We'll put it to the vote. Those who are in favor, please raise their hands. 3, 4. Those who are against, please raise their hands. Those who abstain, please raise their hands. 4, 4. No one is against it, and there is no abstention. So this motion is passed. We ask the Labor Department to continue to improve their services to help those who are unemployed. Item 4, major findings of the 2019 annual earnings and hours survey. Please invite the administration to come in to join us. You will find the PowerPoint in front of you. Do you want to make good use of our time? We need to have more time to discuss about whether COVID-19 should become an occupational disease. Maybe you just read through the PowerPoint. There is no need to ask the administration to take us through it. Any problems with that? If not, let's hear from the administration. Time is tight, and we would like to have more time on the next item. You don't have to take us through the PowerPoint. Just go over the salient points. Your PowerPoint has been tabled. If members have any questions about the figures on the presentation, they can refer to the slide number and ask for further information. I think that will be more efficient. I apologize for wasting your time for preparing the presentation. So far, we have received requests from 3 members, Eunice Yong, Poon Siu Ping, and Michael Luk, and then Mr. Vincent Chang. 4 minutes question and answers included. Hopefully, we'll be able to wrap up this item early and start the next one soon. Ms. Yong. Well, I'm concerned about the differences of wages between male and female. Comparing 2018 to 2019, well, for male employees, they make about a quarter more than female employees. I believe a number of people have noticed that. Is it the case that there is the difference in pay for the same job between male and female employees? Are there any policies to address this problem? This difference has been in place for a number of years. Do you have any ways to enhance the competitiveness of female employees so that they can receive the same wage for the same job, just like their male counterparts? Sorry, I forgot to make the introduction. We have Ms. Agnes Low, Assistant Commissioner for Census and Statistics, Ms. Anmi Cheung, Senior Statistician, Mr. Raymond Ho, Assistant Commissioner for Labor, and Mr. Eric Lee, Principal Economist. You may refer to slide 5. Please speak into the microphone. Can you hear me? Yes. This is the first bar chart. You see the median wages between male and female employees. There is a difference of about 23%. It's similar over the years. Part of the reason may be that there is a difference in educational attainment, explaining the difference in median wage. Another factor may be the jobs they engage in. For male employees, they may engage in the higher pay groups, say for example professionals, associate professionals, managers. We have a higher percentage of male employees in this group. Apart from educational attainment and occupations, the years of service in the company may also affect their wages. A number of female employees might have left the labor market for a short time after they have got married or have had a child before returning to the labor force, so they have shorter years of service than their male counterparts. This may be a reason. The differentials between female and male employees is not unique to Hong Kong. We see the same thing in other places. Say for example, advanced economies like Canada, UK, Australia. Singapore is similar to Hong Kong in Asia. The wage difference between female and male employees is also similar. Well, you mentioned about female employees leaving their jobs after giving birth. Are there any policies to encourage female employees to return to the labor market after childbirth. Any incentives to employers to encourage them to recruit female employees after they've given birth. Assistant Commissioner. There are different policies. On one hand, it helps to strengthen and enhance training and retraining. On the other, it is in the lines of service provision. We hope to provide support, say on childcare and crash service, to encourage female employees to return to the market. We also encourage employers to have more flexible working arrangements. We ask the administration to enhance their studies and to ask employers to provide more support to employers to take care of female employees in this group. Hopefully they will be able to return to their work. Well, it's not just limited to the purview of the Labor Department, but the administration does owe us a lot in this regard. Please forward the view to the Labor Department or the Labor and Welfare Department. Next, Mr. Poon Siu Ping. The survey was done in June last year. The situation is vastly different from that of last year because of the pandemic. Well, there is a serious blow dealt to low-income groups in the form of, say, no pay leave. On slide 7, you talk about monthly median wages for estate management as well as F&B services. You see that there is an increase of about 5%. For retail trade is just about 3.8%. I do believe that this is something to do with the introduction of the statutory minimum wage, explaining the high rate of increase. I would like to get more information about that. As far as I understand, that you have approached about 10,000 business undertakings, collecting information on about 60,000 employees. The information was related to last year. Can you track these employees to find out the latest situation about them? It will be conducive to formulating policies to help employees who are having difficulties. Assistant Commissioner, we see that for the 4 types of low salary groups, well, there is a difference in their percentage. Retail trade is lower of the 4. That may be because of the range of nature of businesses. There may be small retail shops, there may be supermarkets, there may be department stores. The increase in wages of employees in this section may be lower than smaller shops. Well, this section may be the lowest of the 4 other sections in the low-income groups, but it still register a 3.8%, which is quite good. We do understand that the data shown to you is that in 2019, we're preparing for the survey for 2020, which will start in May. Every year when we prepare for the survey, we will randomly select the business undertakings in the coverage. they may not be exactly the same this year as that of last year. We randomly select samples on employees. We only select 60,000 out of 3 million employees in Hong Kong. It's difficult to make sure that the 60,000 we select this year will be the same as the 60,000 last year. Rest assured that the sample selection is a scientific design. So no matter what our business undertaking or employees we have selected, the data will reflect the overall situation. When we publish the information for 2020, you can compare the information of the 2 years and see the difference.
Next is Michael Luke. Chairman, we have looked at the annual paid in hours survey, and we are quite frustrated, especially when we look at the wages. We would expect a huge drop in the coming year. I hope the drop would be slighter following the riots and also the epidemic. It will not look good, we expect. And it comprises the statutory minimum wage, and also the standard working hours can draw reference from this survey. So the biggest issue about the surveying is that the source of information is the employers. And the information provided by employers, of course, would not include overtime payments or unpaid work by the employees. So the working hours are understated. So would the administration consider changes being made to the mechanism for collecting the information? For example, you should ask the employees instead of the bosses, the employers. The bosses wouldn't know how long they have worked and paid for. This is common among employees. Another area of my attention, so we look at the 44 hours from your number. But you also refer to the integrated household survey. Last year the figure is 40. Oh, sorry, in 2018 is 40, in 2019 is 44. Chairman, we can foresee the economy is going to be bad. But working hours may not be reduced because of the cost optimization by the employers. And because of the layoffs, those who stay may have to bear greater responsibilities and work for longer hours. So we cannot underestimate the negative factors affecting working hours. So would you consider improvement to the mechanism for data collection? Maybe the LD should go to collect the information themselves. Seems the issue was raised last year as well, Ms. Low. Maybe I comment more on that, because one of the uses for our data is to help the SMW ascertainment. So we'd follow the SMW ordinance to formulate our mechanism. So the voluntary unpaid work that is not mandatory would not be included in the calculation. So in the general household survey is the direct collection of data from the employees instead of from the employers. But the working hours definition in the general household survey is looking at the real working hours for the past 7 days, and it would not include the meal breaks time. And so this is a difference from the definition in the working hours of the annual hour survey. And also, because of the public holidays or the annual leave taken by the employees, that working hours will be reduced as in the calculation. So there will be fluctuations among years in the working hours figures. But when we look at the general household survey, the weekly working hour has been hovering around 44 hours in the general household survey. But in 2018, it's particularly low. It stands at only 40. Because in April and June in 2018, many people took the day off. And also, the high proportion of workers who take part-time jobs is also higher, and explain the difference of the figure with 2019. So the 2019 figure may look higher, but it's actually because of the 2018 number being particularly low instead. Chairman, I want to make response to the so-called voluntary and paid leave of the employees. I want to say this is actually indirectly mandatory working hours for the employees as well. And the LD is trying to rationalize the so-called voluntary and paid leave. You should not just take the figures by the employers for granted. No matter it's from a statistical point of view or from a practical perspective, these mechanism that's currently being used is not so realistic. I hope the administration can align the public expectation with the mechanism being used. In response to Michael Luke's question, we have assigned an independent contractor. And the contractor will conduct a household survey concerning the employee situations. They will go into the employees' places and interview them. So we want to take a more employee-oriented approach in obtaining working hours or wages figures. Maybe you can also focus on wages because this is focus currently. Next is Chen Wing-shun. So these reports is the figures from last year's May or June. Whether it's the extradition bill or the epidemic, they all have impact on the figures. So I want to know, with all these impacts being taken into account, can you provide us with the latest figures, with all those factors being accounted for? I will want to focus on the value-adding scheme. When we look at the sectors for catering, for tourism, or for transportation, for logistics, these are the areas of focus in this epidemic time. We're talking about a lot of elderly services, or these are all low-paying groups. So we hope those labor in these groups can enhance their wages after they've taken certain courses through the value-adding scheme. So I want to know how the value-adding scheme can help some of those workers to get jobs in the markets. And for the cleaners and hairdressers, many of them are grassroots workers. So can you have measures or directions pointing at the needs of those low-paying workers? I would first answer your first and third question, and the second question I would defer to them later. So the figures for question 1 are from 2019, and other statistics we have are more up to date. For example, there was a labor income survey that we do. Those figures are more updated, and those that reports focus on those levels of workers below supervisory level, and that would reflect the low-income worker situations better and give you a better picture of the labor market. And for these general household surveys being done monthly, so it calculates the total wages of workers. So yesterday we published the figures from January to March, and the detailed survey will be published in May. So these are the sources you can have to get the up-to-date figures. So you also mentioned the miscellaneous services, and that includes 5 industries. So in a PowerPoint, we only give the aggregate figure, but if you want the industry-specific figure, I can give them to you after the meeting. The love upgrading special scheme, can we have more information on that? So through the ERB, we provide training under the scheme. So there are a lot of training organizations under the ERB, and there will be courses provided under that. And the ERB will also focus on the employment situation post-class. Commissioner, I understand what you're doing, but I just want you to take more initiatives and don't just rely on the work of the NGOs. For example, you can be the bridge between training and finding a job for them. Otherwise, they would just take it as leisure classes. I want to ask Ms. Low a question. So, I want to ask about the calculation of the unemployment rate. I'm not sure if it's directly related. For those who are above 65, if they withdraw from the labor market, will they be counted as unemployed or withdrawal from the labor market? We do not take into consideration age when we are determining whether they are part of the working population. Even though they are above 65, if they claim to be working, we would count it in the figure. And for some who are under 65, for those who are despaired in finding jobs and are not taking initiatives in finding jobs, for those despair persons, we include them in the unemployment figures.
In the survey, do you ask them for the reason whether they have lost heart or? Yes, we ask them whether they have been looking for a job in the past 30 days and whether they would like to find work. And we ask if there is a job, will you be able to do it? And if they can't go to work, then it is not unemployed. But if they are unemployed and if they can go to work but it's not working, we ask them for the reason for not working. And if they say, well, because they've lost heart and they don't want to look anymore, then they will still be counted as unemployed. On the 17th, when you talk about unemployment, Well, we see that the number of people employed has dropped. The secretary said that it's not because people have lost heart. It's because they simply don't want to go to work. Right. They have left the working population. By that, it means that for whatever reason, they are not under any financial pressure. They think that the labor market is not quite good, so they don't want to rejoin the labor force. Yes, it's not because they've lost heart, so we count them as having left the labor force. It depends on their intention, whether they would like to work or not. If they say that no, we would like to take a break before thinking about it, then we would treat them as having left the labor force. Well, there are two people. One's more pessimistic, one is optimistic. The pessimistic one cannot find job, so is unemployed. For the optimistic one, they just want to wait for a bit longer before rejoining the labor force as not unemployed. So if Hong Kong people are quite optimistic, then they are not unemployed. Well, we see that for that group, the age is a little bit higher. We think that there is a drop in the number of people in the workforce. Is maybe because they are not under any financial pressure. They've decided not to work anymore. But if the labor market is blooming again, and if the pay is attractive, they may want to rejoin the workforce again. Well, are there people who have left the labor market simply because they don't find attractive wages? There are people who can't find jobs they like. Say, for example, the nature of the work is not to their liking, the working hours are not to their liking, the wage is not as high as they want, and they've chosen not to look for work anymore. Any other questions? If there are no others, that will be the end of this item. I thank the Office of the Government Economist as well as the Assistant Commissioner for Labour.
各位同事，因為我哋原本希望我哋嘅第二個議程可以早啲嘅。
We would like the second item to start early, but the government officials are not here. Let's have a break for about 5 minutes to wait for them.